Right, what I'm doing today is a cracking one pot wonder. Beef stew and dumplings, perfect dish for today's weather conditions. And as per usual, the method and all the ingredients will be in the descriptions box below. So let's get cracking with this. It's a James Martin recipe, probably one of my favourite online chefs, TV chefs. Went to see him, Bear got me, it was a birthday present I think, and we went to see James Martin at Portsmouth Guildhall a couple of years ago. Absolutely fantastic, because he plays in a band and he brings this band along and he plays a few tracks, and then he cooks up loads of dishes. It's really good. It's quite weird when you think, oh my god, I'm going to see a chef in an auditorium or whatever, an indoor venue, and you think, how can that work? But he does. It was really cool to see him. So anyway, let's get cracking and show you what goes in it and how I put it together. So we have 4 roughly chopped onions, and a little bit from yesterday's dish. Did an Arabic sea bash yesterday, so I've got half an onion left over from yesterday. That can go in there. 2 or 3 carrots. Don't bother peeling them. Go for the rustic look. See what I mean when they say 3 carrots, 2 carrots? Do you know what I mean? I mean, these are like 2 ginormous carrots, so plenty of veg in these 2. In there, and the stray bit. 4 sticks of celery. What a cracking sound that makes to me. I love the smell of this when you put it all together, the ingredients. Oh, there we go. So 4 sticks of celery, go in the pot in a minute. Two peeled garlic cloves. Now my bouquet garni, made up of 2 bay leaves, a few sprigs of thyme, some parsley. Tie that up into a little package. There, bouquet garni, and that will pack it full of flavour. Some chopped parsley for the dumplings. Now the beef, I always use, from Buckwell's obviously, best butcher in the world, I always use chuck steak, diced chuck steak. So a kilo, but that would probably do normally about 3 to 4 people. Now I dredge it in flour. That'll help to thicken up the mix, thicken up the stew that well with the flour. Some pepper, freshly ground black pepper, bit of salt. Dredge that lovely chuck steak in the flour, the salt and the pepper. Now what I do now is I'm going to fry this off in a couple of batches, just to brown it off, so it gives it that brown colouring, so it looks nice. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is fry off my beef that I've dredged in flour, salt and pepper. Fry it off in batches in the stock pot now with just a dash of vegetable oil. So this is the first batch of beef frying off, browning up nicely. And you can see that's got a nice bit of colour on it now. And that's the first batch browned off. Now I'll remove that, the first batch out of the pot and pop it into another bowl. And then I'll fry off the second batch, pop it into this bowl. And then we start with the veg. Lovely and brown. And you can see in here the flour's mixed with the veg oil, so that'll help to thicken up the stew. Now that's the second batch of beef just seared off. Decant that into the bowl with the first batch. Lovely. And that's what you're aiming to get, so it's nice and seared off. Now what we're going to do is fry off the veg. So with the stock pot and all the bits of beef and the oil and the flour in there that we've just seared off the beef adds to the flavour. So we're chucking our veg in here. So we got our celery, 4 sticks of celery, 2 large carrots and 2 roughly chopped onions. And we'll fry this off for about 3 minutes or so, 3-4 minutes. And you can see where we've seared the beef in this pot previously, how it sticks, the bits stick to the veg in here. Now, thoroughly coat the veg in the oil so it doesn't burn. Now we're going to add a good squirt of tomato puree in there. And we'll cook this out for a couple of minutes, otherwise it's really bitter. Probably about a tablespoon for the puree. Mix that in, cook it out. So we've cooked out our puree, and now I'm going to add 300 millilitres of red wine. That helps to deglaze the pan as well as flavour the stew. A lot of hand actions going on here, isn't there? So 300 millilitres of red wine now. Now what I'll do is whack the heat up a bit and I'll reduce this down, reduce the red wine down by about 50%. Thickens up nicely. Right, we've now, right, I've now reduced down the red wine and that's thickened up nicely. Lovely concentrated red wine flavour now. So now I'm going to add my beef stock. There's 500 millilitres of beef stock here. Now I always use the rich ones, nor the rich beef ones, not just your normal beef stock cube, you know, more intense flavour. Sometimes you're supposed to use 1 for 500 millilitres, sometimes I put 2 in. Right, so we've got 500 millilitres of beef stock going in there. All that lovely rich flavour being added to the dish. Whack that up, bring it back up to temperature. Right, so the beef stock's been added. It's simmering away again now, so now we return our seared beef back to the pot. Here we go, with all those lovely flavoursome juices going in there with it. I've got to wash that lot out in a minute. Right, give it a good mix round. All them flavours interwoven. What a word that is, interwoven. Infused, that's another one, isn't it? Infused? infused, yeah, infusion of flavours. He's right on one today, isn't he? Right, so she's back up to temperature now, it's simmering away, so we are now going to pop, and given a good mix around, I'm going to pop the garlic in. Now what I forgot to say earlier is there was 2 peeled garlic cloves here, but I've chopped them up. So they go in, like that. Mix that round. Now there is only one more thing to do before we leave it for about 3 hours. So what I'll do is I am going to add my lovely bouquet garni that we made earlier. So the garlic, all the mixtures in there now. Right. Now the bouquet garni. Oh. So you've got 2 bay leaves, thyme, some sprigs of thyme and some parsley in there. Now that will sit on there. Now what we do is I take it off this heat because it's a little bit too intense. I'll pop it on a slightly lower heat. Pop the lid on, and she stays there now, just simmering away on a low simmer for around 3 hours, or until the beef is really nice, soft and tender. And then we get to the next stage. Right, while that's simmering away, I'll crack on and show you how to do the dumplings. The most important ingredient with beef stew and dumplings. I think that's if everyone loves dumplings. Well, probably not everyone, but a lot of people. If you don't like dumplings, you're a weirdo. End of story. I think I'm off my nut on trips, actually. That's what the trouble is. That's why I'm coming out of all these superlatives. I've done about 8 cans a trip. But maybe if I went back to beer, I wouldn't be so bad. So there is the beef stew. Now everything's in there. The flavours are all infusing together, and it will stay there for around 3 hours until the beef is and the veg is lovely and tender. And then we go on to the next stage. While that's simmering away, I will show you what I do with the dumplings. Right, now for the dumplings, what I do is my scales here. I have 200 grams, where am I going? 200 grams of flour. And now suet, I use shredded beef suet. So yeah, 100 grams of this goes in there now. So it should take the total measurement up to 300 grams. So we've got to 300 grams and we know we're there. So it's 200 of flour, 100 of suet. Job done. And that goes in this bowl. Add to that baking powder, sprinkling of baking powder, probably 1.5 tablespoons, something like that. Freshly ground black pepper, sprinkling of salt, and your parsley. We chopped up a little bit of parsley earlier, didn't we? That goes in there now. Mix all this up, this mixture. In a minute we get all messy. We add a bit of water to this in a second. Get it all mixed up nicely. Your shredded beef suet, your flour, your baking powder, salt, pepper and parsley. And this will make the most beautiful fluffy dumplings you've ever seen. Right, so what I'm doing now is the dumplings. I've put 200 milligrams of flour, I've gone in here, 100 milligrams of shredded beef suet, 1.5 tablespoons of baking powder, some freshly ground black pepper, salt, sea salt, and a handful of chopped parsley. Now I've added a little bit of water to this. Well, first of all, let's put a little bit more flour on this plate just to stop them sticking up. So now we make these, and you make them quite small because they will near enough double in size when they go into the mixture. These go in about when there's 20 minutes left to go. So I generally do them about that. You know, I mean, what's that? Probably about 3/4 of the size of a golf ball. So we get as many as we can out of this mixture, because these are the secret ingredient. Honestly, dumplings, oh my word, we all love a dumpling. Anyway, I've seen about a week when I've done this. All important, getting the mix right, you know, the amount of water that you need. You get the amount of water right, and then they stay together when they're in the mixture, cooking away, and they don't fall to bits. But yeah, that's the secret, is to get them quite small. Make them quite small. I think a lot of people make them too big, and when you put them in the mixture, they swell up to 24 times their actual size. That's like my feet on a hot day. My feet on a hot day can swell up to 24 times their actual size. I never get my shoes back on. You can see the OCD kicking in now, can't you? I'm actually having a breakdown right this minute because they are not identical sizes. That will mess me up, that will. That'll mess me up for the rest of the day knowing I haven't done them all the same size. Imagine what it's like living with me. No, you don't want to. Just ask Bear. I actually don't. You can see why I've had 4 million wives, can't you? Still going. All this flour helps to thicken up the stew. So when you pop these dumplings in, that all helps to thicken it up with the flour content. We're going to get about 18 out of this mix. Well, Bear, while I've been doing this, has just nipped up the co-op to get some bits and pieces, and there has been, because we're in Southsea in Portsmouth, and she's just seen a bit of a kerfuffle going on, lots of mini buses and lorries and bits and bobs. Anyway, long story short, Ryan Gosling's just up the end of the road filming his new movie. So, little bit of drama in Southsea. There we go. That's all the little suckers done. 17. I think there's 17 there anyway. Right. So it's been bubbling away now for about 2.5 hours. So now we are going into the final phase. So what we got to do now is remove the bouquet garni. You don't want to be munching on that. Give it a bit of a stir. And that's been bubbling away, like I just said, for 2.5 hours now. Alright. So what we're going to do now, we are going to add, in proper James Martin style, a chunk of butter. Big chunk of butter goes in there. Then we add, this is lovely stuff, a dollop of Redcurrant Jelly. Dollop of Redcurrant Jelly in there. I could literally just sit there watching TV and eat a jar of that. Now, season it up with some salt and pepper, my Cornish sea salt. Right, let's have a little look at that, see what's going on. That is the nuts. Right. Now we pop our dumplings in. And the consistency of the mixture now is beautiful. It's lovely and thick. And it will only get thicker now with these dumplings going in. Right, so that's those in there. Lid back on. And we leave that for another 20 minutes. Now take a look at that. There we go. Dumplings have been in. I apologise for the steam. Dumplings have been in now for about 20 minutes. So it's ready to serve up.
And there we have it, my recreation of James Martin's beef stew and dumplings. Lovely on those winter days.